Welcome to another enlightening episode of Whispers of the Womb. I'm your host, Suzanne Lawson, and today we have a very special guest joining us all the way from Brisbane in Australia, Jayne Bryson. Jayne is a seasoned naturopath with over 3 decades of experience in the field, and she's also a mindset coach, specialising in working with women to empower them in all aspects of their lives. Jayne is joining us to discuss how programming the brain for life's challenges can be a remarkable way to manage your holistic lifestyle. Jayne's practice primarily focuses on women's health, and she notes her evolution from specialising in fertility to now addressing perimenopause and related challenges. Whether it's in her bustling clinical practice in Brisbane or through international Zoom calls, Jayne's commitment to helping individuals achieve optimal health and happiness is unwavering. What truly stands out in Jayne's work is her observation that 2 individuals with the same medical diagnosis, following vastly different diets, often share a common thread: their mindset and determination to lead healthier and happier lives. She underscores the critical role that mindset plays in our overall well-being. Jayne's insights remind us that our mental state can greatly influence our journey toward achieving our desired outcomes. So stay tuned for more wisdom from Jayne on programming the brain for life's challenges in this thought-provoking episode of Whispers of the Womb. So welcome, Jayne. It's wonderful to have you part of the Wellness to Womb podcast community. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners about you and what your business offerings are that you have available.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for a lovely introduction. And I feel very honored that you asked me to, share my knowledge. And so I've been a naturopath for over 20 years now. And I am also a mindset coach too, because, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I work with predominantly women and everything around women. And in my earlier days, I did do fertility. And as I'm moving through my phase of life, I'm sort of moving into perimenopause, that type of stage. I have a pretty busy clinical practice here in Brisbane, and I also do Zoom calls for people internationally as well. So, yes, that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Excellent. And so do you want to just cover about what it was that you were saying there about your mindset coaching business, about what you do in that business, what it is that you cover?
Yeah, well, what I discovered in clinical practice is that I would, and I'll give you an example, like I would have 2 people with exactly the same diagnosis, and one would be on like a ketogenic diet, and the other one would be on like a vegetarian diet. And I would say that a lot of things were different. However, something that was very much the same was their mindset and their will to live and their will to get really healthy and happy. And so I found that it was a lot to do with the mindset. It didn't really make much difference what they were diagnosed with. The mindset was really, really important. And so that's probably the shift that I did. And in clinical practice, I would, the majority of the time, I would, of course, be asking them what was going on in their life. But I would have a certain amount of time that I would also find out a little bit about their feelings and their thoughts and I guess what impact their health had in their life, their family. And so I started to move into the mindset field. So I traveled to around 63 different countries, and I've done many studies around the world. And there's many amazing people. There's a whole group of people right now that are doing a lot of clinical research around mindset and how it really, affects everything. And I know that you are really, you specialize in endometriosis. And I believe that there is a lot around mindset. And I think that it's a very high percentage. It's like 90% of it is. And so, there's many, there's many people that are studying it. And one person in particular, Dr. Bruce Lipton, he is a cellular biologist, and he's done a lot of work in epigenetics, and which is changes in gene expression, particularly in exploring like the connection between your beliefs and your thoughts and your emotions, and how they can impact on your biology. And his work is very much around that. And what he has found out is that positive beliefs and thoughts can activate the genes that can promote health and well-being, while negative beliefs and stress can actually activate the genes. And he wrote a book, The Biology of Belief, and I would highly recommend it. And of course, with the endometriosis, I've done quite a bit of research on it, and there's a great a little group study with mice with endometriosis. And one group, they were both were actually given the endometriosis to grow within their body, and after about 12 weeks, they removed the endometriosis. However, they found that there was a huge connection between pain and depression, and that was like really highly documented. And when you're looking at any pain situation in your body, especially endometriosis, you're looking at 68% have mild or high psychological stress. So women with depression have found that they're twice as likely than the general population to have endometriosis. So we know that there's high level of anxiety and depression, and that just amplifies with the severity of the pain. And it really does significantly decline, with the quality of your life. And so the psychological factors, are really high anxiety and depression, and it can move into the psychiatric disorder. So there's a lot, and then we've got lots of research. So in my clinical practice, when people are in pain, especially with endometriosis, an extremely painful thing to have, I found that we also need to work on anxiety and depression and how they're feeling.
Yeah.
It is such a big part. And, they've had lots of, studies around the world in regards to chronic pain. And it's in fact in Queensland, there's a genetic, I can't say that word.
Yeah.
Genetics, but he specializes in genetics. Yeah. And they're doing lots of, looking at the risk factors when women have endometriosis and depression. So you see, once I have all that information, and over the years working as a naturopath, you can't not work and help people with their mindset. And it's one of the big reasons why I put together a whole online program in regards to that.
Yeah.
So people come to me for their health issues, but generally we'll always get onto the subject of how they're feeling and how the pain and their situation is impacting on their life.
Yeah.
And of course, there's also, other things that happen when you have endometriosis. I mean, there's a huge connection with, gut issues. There's a huge impact on that. So the gut microbiome, the bacteria, there's reflux, there's all of these other things, which I might expand on that later. But I've just found also that we need to look at all of those areas, and, really to have any chronic inflammatory reaction within the body. And endometriosis is a huge one for that. It's scar tissue and adhesions and fibroids within the pelvis and outside of the pelvis and in other areas of the body. It just grows. But yeah, we really, really do need to work on that. And I think as a naturopath, I think it's also our duty to make sure that we also cover that. Because as a naturopath, yes, we have a look at the symptoms and we look at herbal medicine and supplementation and all of that, and even the diet, and I'll talk more about that soon. But there's all of that in herbal medicine. You can do that. But if you don't really look at the underlying issue, their mindset and how they're feeling, then it's going to be very, very difficult, because what I teach is creative development, not personal development, because the personal development is very much, and it's, I guess you could say it's very much on the line of there's something wrong with me. And when you feel like there's something wrong with you, you're then always seeking that one line or that one book or that one motivational program or that one course, and that's going to make you whole. But in fact, what we need to do is go, okay, well, this is my situation right now. Where do I want to be in the future? What am I creating for my life? Where do I want to go? What's my desired reality? Do I want to stay feeling sick? Do I want to stay feeling like my life is hopeless? Do I want to give up? Like, when we focus on that, and when we focus on that, it actually then takes us away from what it is that we're wanting to create. So it's very much, we need to learn how to be in that creative structure and choose a path in your life, like choosing health and vitality, and choosing to live in your true purpose and nature, and choose to really enjoy your life. And at times it's extremely difficult when you're right in the center of pain. But I know with the research that you can move pain through your body. And I can say it from my own personal experience that I've been in situations where I've moved pain. It's a strategy, it's a skill that I believe that we need to teach people, and everyone should be teaching that. Teachers should be teaching it at primary school. We should know how to move pain through your body, and not really accept where you are. Like, I ask people, well, especially with their health, like I'll say, where do you want to be? What life, imagine if you didn't have the pain, what would your life be like? And it's really projecting into the future and being that predominant creative force in your life, because I can guarantee you don't have to stay where you are. The thing that you do need to make is a decision and a choice. Remove the resistance in the way so you can create that life that you would really like to live. And so,
I'm just thinking about my own personal, like, now I'm going to call it creative development, not personal development. Is that, like, I went on that journey where it was, I can't live with this pain. No one was there medically to tell me what to do. There was no drug to take. And so I went down that route of, I'm going to try reflexology, I'm going to try Reiki. Both started to work, both sort of shifted, and they did exactly what you're saying. They shifted that pain. I was able to recognize where the pain was. I was able to recognize that the different levels of my pain. So at different times of the month, when was it really excruciating? Okay, so what can I do to avoid it becoming that excruciating, rather than just allowing it to happen? How can I live my life in a different way to the way that I am now? And by introducing these different modalities into my life, that is exactly what happened. And for me, I'm all about I became a reflexologist and I became a Reiki master because I wanted to delve deep into, when you were explaining there about, there's trials, there's people in the background, experts who are actually studying this in much more detail. And it was interesting what you said there about positive and negative thoughts. I can't remember the person's name, but he did some studies with ice. So he put ice and brought the ice out, and then sort of started to talk to some of the ice cubes in a positive way and some of the ice cubes in a negative way, and the difference in the formations of how it was quite remarkable, really. I'll try and dig out the person's name and put a link in for
Yeah,
our listeners.
I think it's a moshi or a
A moshi, yeah, Japanese.
from Japan, and he's died now, and his grandson has taken over the that research. But that's absolutely true, because there's structures, the molecular structure of the actual crystal, the water crystal.
Yeah.
And I was doing this 20 odd years ago when my children were young. On their bottoms of their water bottle, I would write love, because everything has a vibration. And you can even like pick up a glass of water, and I mean, there is a bit of a technique to it, but there's many ways of doing it. But you basically project light from 300 meters above, and it shines directly into the glass. And in that moment, when you're imagining the sun's rays, the earth, the universal power coming into the water, you can make it your intention that when you drink the water, you're going to be well. And this is, and so there's a lot of research out there with that. But yeah, that water molecule, it's absolutely, because water carries information, and
Yep.
our bodies are made up of 70% fluid, not so much water, but it's fluid. So fluid has information, so our bodies will store the information.
Yep.
And so, but we have the power from Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, and even Dr. Joe Dispenza. There's all of these people that have done a lot of work that now really, they prove that this is all correct. And I really do believe that you can heal yourself. However, there are certain situations which is that our physical body also needs help.
Yeah.
And that's also with diet, which has a big lot to do with it. And you may need herbal medicine, to help get past this. There's even like, sometimes you may need medication to get you through a certain hump, in your health situation. And that's really okay. It's just mostly it's a Band-Aid. And so what we're wanting to do is really heal, not Band-Aid. We want to heal the body. So it's finished. It's you have a healing. And that's what I believe where natural medicine, comes in. And it's really something, a lot of the natural medicines that I use are things that our great-great-grandmothers used to use. It's not new. It has just been suppressed over a period of time. And so, when you're looking at the statistics on endometriosis, you're looking at, close to about 180 to 200 million females, women, girls around the world globally that have got this issue. So this is not just like a couple of thousand. This is a major issue. And it's so debilitating, and it affects a lot of things: fertility, pelvic pain during sex, during periods. It's heavy flow. It really can affect big time. With well, at least I know with statistics in the US, it's 50% fertility problems. And it's an industry that is worth like about $100 billion annually. So it is a big problem. But they're bringing in there's more research on it. Medical cannabis, they're doing a really good amount of study in that. Not only just endometriosis, but chemotherapy and epilepsy and MS and all of this. They're using that. In fact, at the Western Sydney University in Australia, they're investigating the potential benefits for endometriosis with with hemp, with cannabis. And so, there's things really happening out there, because I know that cannabis does help. But again, it can be a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
But what they've also found, though, with cannabis is that they are saying that it actually can decrease the growth. So this is also, which is
Right.
great. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
good news. Generally, that's very hard to do apart from going in operation and cutting it out, which is then you're going to be increasing more scar tissue, and then
stress and anxiety and
and you've got a lot of poisons running through your body, and then you've got to detox your liver, and there's all of these things. But the main thing, I believe, in every single disease, whether it be endometriosis, whether it be cancer or diabetes, whatever, the whole thing is inflammation.
Yeah.
Everything is inflammation, and the body is acid. So wherever there's acid, there's going to be inflammation. Wherever there's inflammation, there's going to be pain. And after the pain, then there's going to be a disease state. So it's like this domino, and that's what we have.
Yeah.
And, I always say things like, in clinical practice, I make sure people go on things like, turmeric, and they go on ginger, and they make sure they have omega-3s, your EPA and DHA. I say, make sure you have, even pineapple is good, So I'm very much into, reducing the inflammation within the body. And, there is a lot of dysbiosis in the gut and around the vaginal area. And so there's all of that. And of course, we also need to, look at certain nutrients. So when I have anyone with endometriosis or perimenopause, I do a saliva test to find out exactly where the hormones are. So where the estrogen is, where the DHEA, where the progesterone, testosterone, because when I have a look at those tests, if I find a woman has really low DHEA, then that is harder, because it just means to me that they're in a fatigue. They're absolutely exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to need a lot more support than someone else. And also I like to test the cortisol level. Where is their stress? Where is it? And I think a lot of people like that, because then we start working with herbal medicine, different types of herbs, because it depends on where their hormones are. And then from there, we then keep getting tested to see, after 3 to 4 months, I say, well, let's get another test and see where we are.
And it gives you that benchmark, doesn't it? It gives you something to work on. Yeah.
I need to know that. I need to know, where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then they become very confident. They feel better within themselves when maybe their estrogen is a little bit more balanced, or maybe a little bit of the pain is not as bad anymore, and things like that. So it's, and there's so many different things you can use. There's essential oils, which they've done studies back in 2013, with cinnamon and clove and lavender and rose and all. They've done a lot. They've even done, studies on zinc. They know that suppresses the endometrial, cyst development. They know that vitamin D is really, really good. So but you've got to be careful with vitamin D, because a lot of them have a very cheap oil, and that becomes a trans fat. So really, it's not that great. So you've got to be careful of the actual vitamin D, but vitamin D is really, there's a lot of research on decreasing cancer rates and endometriosis, a lot of inflammatory. And then I usually say, with diet, avocado is really great. I don't know whether you can get that where you are, but we a lot. Yeah. So I said that's great, because they're a really high vitamin E, and that's good. And then with the herbal medicine, sometimes I mix a concoction depending on the issues. So cramp bark and black haw, wild jam, they're really good, but it depends on what their hormones come back as, because I've got to be very specific, and people shouldn't be taking a whole box and a bucket load of supplementation. I don't agree with that, because we need to be specific, and let's work on a few things that,
It just at that moment in time as well, because
exactly,
you're going
change.
to move through, you're going to change through, aren't you? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because what also happens is, once you get that support and you know the foods that you would like to increase and maybe some foods to take away,
Yeah.
then there's also those changes which are also happening at the same time. So do you need to be on 100 different supplements? Probably not. After a while, after you start working on increasing your food.
Yeah.
And so, but every single person is different in regards to their food. And it's good to see where, and I look at the
Oh, lost you.
time from my background. When I go back into my DNA, I'm from Scandinavia. Now in Scandinavia, it's cold. It's cold. So what foods would I be eating there? Probably a small quantity of meat. I would have root vegetables. Food. Would I be eating pineapple and mango? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And so when my family arrived in Australia, we adapted to the Australian tropical foods, which doesn't really suit me personally. So what I do with each the diet, okay, where are you from? Where, what's your background? And then generally, if they're from Asia, I say, let's go back to the Asian diet. Especially if they're from Japan, I say, listen, the Western diet's going to kill you eventually. Try and stay clear of that. Go back to your heritage and your culture. And then really you're wiping out all of the Western food, the junk food, and that is going to help with any health situation. I can guarantee you, if you go off gluten, if you go off dairy,
Yeah.
if you go off alcohol and sugars, I can guarantee you can reverse any condition within 3 to 6 months, guaranteed.
I couldn't
However,
believe the difference in my health when I did all of what you've said
yeah,
and more. That was to heal my liver after sepsis.
yeah,
But I mean, everyone would say, "Oh, you look so well." I mean, I still didn't feel great, but I was on that path, on that journey of, it was almost like you say there, connecting with the roots of me, not just, grabbing on to what everyone says that you should be doing, because we are all different. And
mm,
actually, I got an allotment for the first time in my life. So I started to grow my own vegetables and making soups and making everything that felt right for me, even like a soup in the summer. It just felt like the right thing to
yeah.
do. And yeah, yeah,
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. We've got to get back to the ground roots of our culture and our grandparents and our ancestors, because that's going to be the health. But the Western diet, it's very unhealthy.
mm-hmm.
It's really, really unhealthy. But um, what else do I do with endometriosis in clinic? I do a lot of castor oil packs. I'm really, really into that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I also look at N-acetyl cysteine amino acid. And it's purely because I read a research study back quite a while ago, 10 years ago, and they gave about 600 milligrams of NAC 3 times a day for 3 months, and the patients basically cancelled their scheduled laparoscopy because they decided that, yeah, their endometriosis was improving.
Mm-hmm.
And melatonin is really good too. That's a neurohormone, and that's like, sleep is really, really important. So that's also going to help. If you don't sleep well, you're not going to feel very
Yep.
rested during the day, and then you're going to have, major problems. But you've got to start with small dosage and then, slowly go up. And then I also look at, their bowel. A lot of them have IBS, so there's a lot of issues there, because around 18% of women that have endometriosis have problems with their bowel. And it's very, very similar to the IBS, which is your diarrhea or constipation, even nausea, vomiting, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of women have that belly, that endo belly, that they just feel really bloated. And I'm totally into coffee and enemas. And I believe that colonics are a really good idea, because if you're not evacuating your bowel often, you are pooping in your pelvis, and that's how you're going to get a lot of back pain, because you're it's like cement
Yep.
in your bowel. And
Funnily enough, that was where my journey started. That's where the first place I was told it was on my bowel. And I went to a lady who did a colonic irrigation. I was there for hours, and it was like black bits of coal that was coming down the tube. And the pain was quite obviously quite bad at the time. But I when I left her clinic, I felt the best I'd ever felt in my entire life. It was unbelievable. Just all those toxins had left my body, and that was where I first started before reflexology. Just kept having those, and that really, really helped.
Yeah, well, I always recommend people do colonics first, maybe 3 in a row in like a 10-day period, and then really just have, depending on your diet, but have a really light diet, like bone broths and light food and a lot of liquid. And then once the colonics, because what happens is when you go and have a colonic, they will rinse out part of your bowel, but they'll have like 6, 7 goes at it. Whereas if you're at home and you're doing one colonic, it's just one. So it's going to take you a long time for you to really flush. But yeah, I teach people with the coffee and enemas to get a kit and to do it at home. But of course, it needs to be under practitioner guidance, because of course there's other issues that they may have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much into that, because with the stomach, with the endo belly, there's also links with lots of bacteria, streptococcus, and there's quite a few different bacterias that you can have as well. So with the colonics, that's also going to help. So antiparasitics are a good idea, but it's really just flushing, the whole system. But with diet, I've also found that a high consumption of red meat is really not great.
No.
And if we have a look at our ancestors, it's very interesting, because I'll give you a story. The North American Indians, they would go out and they'd get like 2 buffaloes for the whole entire village, right? And they would use everything on the buffalo. They would do a ritual before they kill the buffalo, as in thank you for keeping us alive. So they would have a ritual before they killed the buffalo, but they would have the meat like a garnish on the plate. Whereas with Western diet, we tend to eat a lot of meat, way over what we should be eating. So if we're having a high consumption of meat, a lot of it's processed and fatty. So all of those, like ham is not great, pig is not great. There's all these different reasons for that. But any deli meats are not good, because they're very processed, and it's already linked to bowel cancer. And bowel cancer used to be number 37 about 30 years ago. Now it's like number 1, number 2 cancers.
Wow.
Because bowel is getting a lot of junk. So we have a lot of these fast foods. And of course, dairy products, if you live on a farm and you're getting the milk directly from the cow, that is different to the milk you're getting in the supermarket. And so there's only Parmesan cheese without the lactose. Parmigiana stuff. Well, So the thing is that dairy is very highly inflammatory, because the molecular structure of the milk we can't absorb. And it actually, the more you drink milk, the worse your bones get. So milk causes osteoporosis. It does not help with bone growth because bones are made out of minerals and microminerals. They're not made just on calcium. So that is also a problem. So, of course, and we also know gluten. Gluten is really not good. It causes a lot of issues. And I'm really sort of into, things like onions and garlic are not that great. Certain fruits are not great. So all of these things can actually make it worse. Coffee, tea, sodas, all that is really not great. Alcohol's not that great. Alcohol is poison to the brain, to the body. And of course, all your sugars are not great. Sugars will really make the symptoms worse because you'll have this huge sugar spike and then you'll crash and then you're going to feel not very good. And of course, all your trans fats, your canola, your corn oil, your sunflower, soya bean oils, all those can actually make inflammation worse in your body. And also sodium, excessive sodium in packets. But I do believe in Celtic salt and Himalayan salt. But because the Himalayan will help bring down the blood pressure if you have high blood pressure. The Celtic will help you regulate your blood pressure. And with Celtic salt, you have it small little grain in your mouth about 3 times a day, and then you drink the water. And then also with salt in your water, the Himalayan, you mix it up. You put like a tablespoon in it, in like a glass of water, you mix it up. You wait for the salt to go to the bottom, and you take out about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of the water, that's full concentration of the salt, and you pour that into a drink of like 750 mils or a litre of water, and you drink that through the day. So salt is incredibly good for you, but table salt is not, because table salt is going to lead to retention, bloating, and all that, and it's going to really intensify, your problem. And of course, some soy-based foods I'm not really into. Men, I know there's probably no men listening to this at all. They've probably turned off like half an hour ago, but they did a huge study on soy products in Hawaii, and they gave men, 1,500 men, around 3 cups of soy every day, and their penis shrunk. Yeah. Yes. And of course, their estrogen increased. So female tendencies. So, and with women, maybe on menopause, maybe I would say soy, maybe, but it's really not a go-to because it's really a byproduct from tofu and tempeh. So it's better, so tempeh is a really good high-quality protein, and then tofu is the second, but you really want to stay clear of the soy. It's a phytoestrogen, and it's not that great. So, and this is all
it actually makes me really unwell. Yeah, I get really unwell with it.
And it's good you say that, because I believe that if you eat anything that bloats you or you don't feel well, you stop eating it. You stop eating it. Even though you're craving for it, you stop it. Because it's really doing a lot of damage internally. Because if you think from the mouth all the way through to the anus, you have all mucosa, like it's all mucosa. It's all very fleshy. And so what happens is when you put anything on it, like your dairy, that causes immediate inflammation within the body. And you'll notice it. And I know with myself, if I have dairy, I get very mucousy the next day. So if I have like an ice cream, and I might enjoy the ice cream, the following day I can guarantee you it would have already produced the mucus. And so, and when you do colonics and start doing coffee enemas, you'll have all this mucus coming out. And it's very interesting. And I know you might think, oh my gosh, I don't think I really want tube up my bottom. The thing is that once you get your head around it and you want to get all the toxins out, you feel so much better.
Absolutely.
Better, because your brain, it can also stop the brain fog. you know, that cognitive problem.
Mhm.
And so, I think if you eat your food and you should be pooping at least once or twice a day. And if you're not, well, then you have a backup of garbage, toxic garbage that you're holding onto in your bowel. And if it can't evacuate, the toxins are going to then go through your bloodstream and you
Yeah.
can be very, very sick in the process.
Mhm.
So, but look, overall with the diet, I believe that it's really important to, everyone is so individual. And remember how I said right at the beginning that I had two people, same diagnosis. One was on paleo meat diet and keto, and the other one was vegetarian. They both survived, both did really well because of their mindset. They
Mhm.
were both very strong. They started meditating. They started to go into more personal development. They were very keen on changing their environments, you know, removing toxic people from their life. They became a little bit more spiritual.
Mhm.
One of them, I remember, started to go to church. So there's all these other factors, which diet is very important. Absolutely, it is important. But the mindset and and getting your mind focused on the right things, that is really the most important thing. That's just what I believe. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, like say if someone's listening and they're thinking, I was just talking to someone the other day actually, and she was telling me that her daughter has started her periods at the age of 10,
Mm,
which is quite young, isn't it? What advice would you give to parents or even teenage girls who are listening about, looking after their hormonal health if they have any pain or discomfort? Because,
mm.
obviously it is quite difficult if you're a teenager and you're not really sure where
Yeah,
to
look,
go or
it
what
is.
to do.
Yeah, look, it is a little bit. It is tricky because it depends on the relationship with the parent and the child.
Yeah.
My take on having early periods is because of the antibiotics and the hormones that if a child is eating a lot of chicken, which is not organic, and
Hmm.
they have non-organic, no free-range caged eggs, then they're getting a lot, and this is messing up their hormones. So that's I would probably be removing a lot of that type of food. There's a whole list on that, but I would be looking at the diet. But I believe that education is really, really important wherever that comes from. Wherever that comes from.
Hmm.
And, knowledge is really going to help with any anxiety that they're having. And the child needs to be on a really healthy lifestyle
Yeah.
with regular exercise and, well, an exercise that they really love doing.
Yeah.
So, if they love bike riding, really promote that. If they love ballet, promote that. If they like cricket, promote that. It's whatever movement is. So exercise is sort of a bit of an ugly word, but I believe in movement. You need to move the body. Do they like hiking? Do they like fishing? What does your child like to do? What are they passionate about?
Hmm.
And that's really, as a parent, it's that encouragement of the healthy lifestyle. But the parents need to be doing it as well.
Yeah.
And so this is the key. You can't be telling a child, have your broccoli, and then you're not eating it.
In it. Yeah.
Like, you have to really do it. You have to be the example. And, also what's lacking in women, all women overall, is self-love and self-care. And I can't talk about that enough.
Hmm.
They, need to really encourage them to be able to sleep well and to manage stress and teach them how to do relaxation techniques. And if you don't know how to do it, well, go and take your child. I know my mother took me to meditation classes and she took me to all different types of things. She wasn't really into it, but she wanted to show me different ways, you know. Um, and of course, the education part is also I will mention this because menstrual hygiene is really, really important. And I would suggest organic products. So if they're using pads or tampons, it must be organic, because if it's not organic, you're looking at chemicals which are then going to be going through the bloodstream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, it's really important that the mother explains the hygiene of that. What do you do with the pad afterwards? I taught both of my daughters, when they took it off, they would, put in a plastic bag and make
Yeah.
sure they wash their hands, and, they would wash properly. They would wipe their bottom from the vagina through to the bottom instead of going the other way, because the other way you can bring the feces up and you can get infections. So this is your hygiene that is going to really help, right? And then, for parents, simply they've got to be supportive, right?
Mhm.
They've got to be non-judgmental. They've got to be patient, and be okay. If the child doesn't want to talk about it, you stop talking.
Yeah.
So, and as an example, my best friend Joanne, many years ago, primary school, she started to menstruate, and her mother didn't really want to teach Joanne about it. So she asked my mother if my mother could speak to Joanne. So I
Oh,
remember there was Joanne and I just sitting there, and it was very embarrassing for me, but Joanne loved it because it wasn't coming from her mother. So,
yeah.
and if we think about how the African tribes work, as an example, when I was in Africa, I stayed with the Zulus, and it was very interesting because all the aunties and the uncles are also called mother and father. So if you're a female and you have 10 sisters, when you have your children, your child has like 10 mothers. But each mother, right, each mother has a role in that child's upbringing. So one would be teaching the child how to cook. Another one would be about, yes, menstruating. It could be about puberty. It could be about, what you do, sexual activity, that
Ah,
sort of thing. And another one would be teaching weaving and embroidery and things like that. So what happens in our Western world is that we're so nuclear, and we
mhm.
don't have that womanhood, that sisterhood to help.
And
But
what they're doing there is they're bringing in the specialists, kind of, aren't they? They're going, oh, well, you're good at this, so you teach everybody about
yes,
that.
that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a teacher was telling me that one of the children, they'll come in and they say, oh, my mother died, that's why I'm late. And then maybe 2 weeks later, oh, my mother died. And the teacher from England said, what do you mean? Your mother just died 2 weeks ago. And then, oh, no, my other mother, because they've got so many mothers.
Oh,
You
bless.
know? So, but it's good though, because if we start looking at different cultures, we understand with the Western, and we're Western, is that we don't have that backup. But that's what I would say. Be supportive, be patient. There could be someone else that would do a better job than you, and that's really okay. And you get out of the room and you let them have a little chin wag about whatever it is, and that's going to help.
Yeah,
And then maybe if something happens, that child's then got that opportunity and the portal open to go and speak to that person about a problem. And we
yeah,
want to really be able to start that early communication very early, so that they know where to go, and they're not going to go off and do something behind the parents' back. They
yeah.
have that
They feel
connection.
like they've got that confidence and that, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
because look, there's so many resources out there now on Google and websites and all of that, and even school, there's so much. But you've got to
Yeah.
be regularly checking in and making sure, are you okay?
Mhm.
And I know with my daughters, I would always be saying, are you okay? I'm here. I'm just in my room. If you need me, I'm over here. I would never push you, but I was just always available. I'd
Yeah,
say, hey, you doing? Oh, look, I'm just going to, if you want to do something, if you want to hang out together, and I just might say, how you going? How's school? How's this? And I don't push. I just wait. But they're older now.
yeah,
And of course, having professional guidance. So I believe everyone needs a naturopath. I just believe everyone needs a really good naturopath, because they fill in the gap between when you're born to when you're being diagnosed with something. So in between that, that's where naturopaths fit in. We have a great emergency healthcare system, And, if you're half dead, if you in an accident, you go to the doctor, but there's a huge gap between.
Between,
And that's
yeah.
where, the naturopathic sort of field comes in, and Reiki and yoga and all that comes in, that all fills in with the gap,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah. And how do you relax, Jayne, when you finished your work or on a weekend? What do you do to
That's
relax?
such a good question. I love nature and I love walking. I walk
Mhm.
a couple, like 3-4 Ks every single day. Like, I just walk really early in the morning and I love it. And I
Yeah.
do a lot of research. If I find a topic and I just want to research it, I'll spend hours just researching, predominantly like around health, really, health and mindset, because
Yeah.
that's my thing. But living in sunny Queensland, I went out today and I got a bit burnt. But sun is good. I have a lot of vitamin D. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I love walking as well. It's amazing what you see when you open your eyes as well, isn't it? When you actually look at what Mother Nature brings, it's so beautiful.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I just for those of our listeners who are listening in real time, I know you're doing a webinar in December sometime. So we're going to put the link in. Do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit about that webinar, what it involves, and
Yeah. So I run these webinars every month at the moment, and they're free, complimentary. And what I do is I talk about how you can get into that creative mode, and it's really much creative. What are you really wanting out of your life? And whether it be like a health, generally it's health, but if you want, abundance in any other area of your life, it's about being in that creative structure, because life overall it's a journey. And I do believe that we do the best we can with what we know. However, if you want to learn more, and if you're that type of person that knows there's something more out there for you, I always say be open, go searching, find someone or something that's going to give you support. And that's why I run, these webinars, and I do run group programs, and I'm also online naturopath as well as, in Brisbane.
yeah,
Yeah, I always say, look, go seek, be curious, learn more, try different things, because wherever you are right now, you don't have to be there for the rest of your life. It's
yeah,
just a decision of, what do I actually really want? What do I want? Do I really want to be where I am right now? And if it's no, then just be curious, and go find
yeah.
something that can help you. Give it a go. That's all I would say. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jayne. It's been lovely to have you here today. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we leave our listeners? It's been really insightful.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I just think that there is such a big connection between the mind and the body and the spirit and the connection. I believe, because I've seen it myself with people that I've, worked with over the past 20 years, and I've done it with myself in my own healing. I've heard you as well talk about how you've, used certain modalities to heal. And so, yeah, I basically just say, yeah, life is
There's so much out there, isn't there? And there's so
so
much more
much.
than what I think people realize. And it's just getting those people out of that rut and enjoying the life for what, for what you're here for.
Yeah, because life goes so quick. Life
Hmm.
goes so quick. And
Yeah.
that's the whole point. If you look back on your life and think, well, what have I done in the last 5 years? And if you look back and think, I'm not really happy, I think there's more out for me. Well, then go searching, because it's really open now. Everyone is all connected. You're where you are, and I'm in Australia, for goodness sake. Like, we're
Yeah.
we're how many hours away on an aeroplane, and
Yeah.
so there's so much information out there, and yeah. But it's been
Yeah.
an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
I've learned so much today. I've learned so much from you about, naturopathic health, and I've also actually learned a lot about myself as well, about this journey that I've had, this creative journey that I've had. So thank you for that. It's been really interesting.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Jayne.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today on Whispers of the Womb for this insightful conversation with Jayne. We've delved deep into the world of programming the brain for life's challenges and the profound impact of mindset on our holistic well-being. As we wrap up this episode, it's clear that Jayne's wisdom and experience have shed light on the power we all hold within ourselves to shape our lives in a positive direction. Remember, your mindset is a tool, and by harnessing it, you can transform your health, happiness, and overall quality of life. If you found today's discussion as inspiring as we did, don't forget to subscribe to Whispers of the Womb for more thought-provoking conversations and valuable insights. And of course, please share this episode with anyone you believe could benefit from it. Thank you once again to our guest Jayne and to all of our listeners for tuning in. We look forward to having you back for another enlightening episode, and until then, remember to nurture your mind and body, and may you face life's challenges with resilience and a positive mindset. So take care and stay well, and do connect with Jayne and I through our website offerings and social media updates.